Next up is one of our favorite people, Aaron Atac, representing the hackathon. I know it doesn't always feel like the hackathon gets its fair share of attention, so I would really love everybody to pay attention to Aaron and give him extra applause. He's coming to us from Akamai, and I've lost the third page of my script.
All right, bringing it home. Thanks everybody for coming and staying around. Like Adair said, I'm Aaron. I help take part in the hackathon committee here at Nanog. So just going to go over exactly what that is, what we do, at least this time around, and give out a prize at the end to the first place winner. So first and foremost, I want to thank our in-kind sponsors. Without these organizations, the hackathon wouldn't be what it is today. They've effectively allowed us to use their software or platforms for Nanog's educational mission. All right. So in general, the hackathon has gone through a variety of different iterations over the last, I would say, 5 years in terms of format. First and foremost, our focus is education to foster and share knowledge in general and help grow the community. We used to have this format where effectively you would be given a theme around some sort of DevOps for you to master some sort of topic, code up a solution for it, and present it to everyone that took place in the hackathon. And we would basically say like, oh, who do you think came up with the best idea this time around? And it would happen on Sundays prior to the conference. Now what we're doing, just to skip forward to the future, is basically, or the present I should say, a capture the flag style, where we're running parallel with the conference, and we're trying to effectively engage more participation by doing that, where you can do it in your off time, during lunch, during the breaks, etc. And the idea is that you're going to be presented with a set of challenges or scenarios that effectively require some sort of troubleshooting or mastering of a topic. And the idea is that as you progress through those challenges, you are basically given flags as you solve these puzzles, and those flags can be put into a sorting engine, or scoring engine I should say, and based on the value effectively of like how difficult the challenge was, you're awarded a number of points. It's all time-based, so whoever is first to submit the most flags effectively wins. So kind of what I talked already about, we have a variety of different challenges ranging from DevOps to more like routing security kind of operations. Some had a focus on ISIS, IPv6, SRTE, GraphQL, and BGP and RPKI. This is an example of what a lab topology or challenge topology could look like. It's all virtualized on Amazon EC2 instances. We're leveraging Container Lab to start all these different Docker containers to build this topology. And you can effectively log into the Docker containers and proceed with participating in these different challenges. So I'm going to start going over a variety of different scenarios that we had this time around, just as a general summary. And for what it's worth, there's a wide range of authors for these challenges. You'll see towards the end of this slide deck, specifically one called Snowstorm. It's the one that I authored, so there's a little bit more content there just because I can speak about it the most. So regarding IPv6 Fix-It, 2 primary challenges. You're given a topology that has some sort of breakage with IPv6. Effectively you're trying to understand all the different layers of this topology and navigate through a variety of different features revolving around, or protocols revolving around IPv6 and resolving what is broken. There's another scenario or challenge around network modeling. Participants were given a not-about instance that already had pre-baked in or pre-seeded data into it, which led them into finding a variety of different information about a network that they were supposed to perform activities against querying this database for more information about the network. And the goal was to basically learn and demonstrate interacting with not-about in general over REST APIs. The third would be having a network source of truth that you query with GraphQL. I believe this was either Nautobot or Netbox. GraphQL, as you all just heard about, is a JSON-based query language supported by a number of different platforms. So this one was literally to just engage in understanding GraphQL and how to craft those queries. And basically, if you were able to craft the query correctly, your whatever result was effectively your flag, you put it into the scoring engine, and you were awarded points. Yeah, effectively, again, what I just said, specifically certain queries that are filtered and allowed is how you would proceed with this challenge and get specific answers. And in particular, they were about building Jinja 2 configuration templates based on the data in that source of truth. Okay, so Snowstorm, this is the one I authored. Participants are given a topology where they're a hired consultant for this network. This AS is a real allocated AS, 17054. We have no affiliation with them. This is all just lab simulation about what I found in the wild and trying to replicate it in a lab scenario. So the network is having issues reaching their web server. This network has two upstreams, 7018 and 7843. Again, simulated, no real BGP feeds to these networks, all in lab. And the players were tasked with diagnosing and resolving the issues like a real world scenario. So this is an example of the topology. Effectively, all these Docker containers come up when you launch the CLab YAML file. You are effectively given access or restricted from others and said, please don't touch these and only log into the client part of the network that you're effectively acting as a consultant for, and the router, the player router there in the middle that's using GNOS CRPD. And then you have these simulated transit upstreams also running either CRPD or GoBGP, sending feeds to this player router, BGP feeds. And then you also have an RPKI validator connected to your router, which is running Routinator. So the first challenge within this was to find out why their web server is unreachable. This is the destination address. And if you hopefully can read that output as best as possible, I tried. There is a default route from both 7843 and 7018. And then as well, you learn a /19 from 7018 and a /24 from 7843. So the question in the very first challenge is to find out effectively what route is winning and why for this destination. And the flag was to provide a three-letter acronym of effectively what is the reasoning for why the /24 is being selected. So the answer of that was longest prefix match, or LPM. Participants were then asked to investigate the originating ASN of the /24, which comes from an AS that effectively you don't assume, as you're acting as AS 17054, who effectively is this other network originating and more specific of your /19, 395391. As it is not recognized, you're asked to investigate this more. For what it's worth, even though all this was within a lab topology, this is actually a real 24 being announced by 7843 with this originating ASN. It is then discovered that the /24 is RPKI invalid, as there is a ROA for the /19, max length 24, but originating AS, the one you're being a consultant for, AS 17054, obviously the other AS is not that one. It's effectively an invalid route. This is meant to simulate either some sort of misconfig or hijack that has resulted in your packets going to a different destination than you expected. So here you can see hopefully a little bit better output of, you can see that effectively the 24 is the active path that's winning, but the validation state is marked as unverified, even though you do have a RPKI validator session up where you are receiving records. So now we've effectively asked the consultants or the player to dig a little bit deeper. In particular, to investigate the BGP import policy on the 7843 transit session and understand why the invalid route is not being rejected. They've also been told that the router config was generated by ChatGPT, so you can't blame the network engineers that were working there as they didn't produce the config. But there might be errors or dragons. So if you look at the neighbor session, you look at the import policy, it's transit __import. there's two policies that have very similar names. One has two underscores, the other has one. But even within the one that only has a single underscore, you can see a little bit of inconsistency or some unexpected outcomes. So the first term focused around filtering RPKI invalid routes. It's saying from validation database, all of these invalid prefixes, mark them as invalid on the router, but then accept them. That's a little strange and unexpected. And then otherwise, the valid routes don't really have any action other than to accept. So the validation state is not changed. So like when you run show route on the destination, it won't actually show any difference. It will just say effectively unverified. The point is that this policy is misconfigured. You should be rejecting RPKI invalids. You should be marking valid and unknown routes appropriately, just knowing that they have been queried in some way against the RPKI validator, and you have some sort of state known about them. So ideally, you're going to reject this 24. And as well, ideally, you don't just delete the session with that transit provider, as that's not really realistic, depending, of course, on your network. But ideally, you fix the policy errors, you start rejecting the RPKI invalid route, and then you're able to fetch effectively from the web server this web page that has a flag in it. As you cat the index HTML file, the flag is effectively the string there, less is more. You put that into the scoring engine, and you're awarded points. The player is then asked how to find a NOC contact email for this ASN that's originating this RPKI invalid routes to simulate a real-world scenario where you would reach out to them and say, hey, you have some sort of misconfiguration. For some reason, you're hijacking my prefix maybe maliciously. Could you please stop? So the goal of this challenge was to just find the NOC email running who is against the AS, and then you're able to put that email into the scoring engine and be awarded points. And then lastly, to simulate kind of a root cause analysis document that might have to be provided to customers, you're asked to find out when this route was first originated to help form that document. So the goal of this, relatively easily, is RIPE provides a routing history widget on one of their web pages where from all the different RIPE RIS nodes, you can effectively find out when they saw this 24, from what AS it was originating, and at what date and time, and as well for how long this route has been visible by RIPE RIS. So the goal of this challenge was to effectively Google, how to find BGP routing history, take the 24, put it into the widget, and then find the date that it started being originated, which you can see there is October 22nd. So you put that timestamp, or sorry, that date in that exact year, month, date format, as it was hinted in a specific format in the challenge, to just say input the date as this, and then again you're awarded points, and this is basically how the challenge got wrapped up. So here are our results. You have probably seen them rotating during intermission in between talks. We had a variety of different participants. I didn't touch on it earlier, but just to clarify, you can be an individual or a team participating in hackathons. Either way is comfortable, as well as remote is okay. You don't have to be here. We're just doing it in parallel with the conference now because Sunday can pose challenges to certain folks. But naturally, out of all of this, we have a winner. So if I could invite to the stage Gahan Patel. We have a Raspberry Pi to give out, and we're very thankful for his participation, and hope to see him again soon. Yep. Great work, man. All right, well, thanks everybody. Safe travels home, and hope to see you next time in Analog 94. Any questions?
Any questions for Aaron? All right, I'll ask. About how much time do you guys spend preparing the hackathon?
Yeah, so we do spend quite a variety of different hours and different people taking time to build these challenges, because especially for people that have participated before, we don't want them going over exactly old content all over again and having an advantage over new players that don't necessarily know the answers. We also have to be creative as we try to change up the topics as best as we can, or try to make the challenges a little bit easier or hard depending on feedback that we get. In particular, we're always trying to provide a spectrum from DevOps that requires a little bit more API programmability knowledge, and then as well routing security or like network operations that you would have on the other side of our industry.
And how many people work with you on this?
Don't quote me on the committee size, but I think we're about 6 active right now. Yeah. For what it's worth, I think the board is currently evaluating volunteers. So I hope there was at least 1 or 2 of those, if not more, that are willing to help us build more. We're always welcoming to volunteers. So.
How many people participated this go around?
4. Yeah, so we would love as well additional participation. We did get a little bit of feedback, since this is only the 2nd time that we've been running parallel to the conference, that some people didn't get the message and thought it was already concluded on Sunday. So at least for NANOC 94, right now we're staying with the current precedent. We're going to be running in parallel to the conference, and hoping you can engage along the way, and you don't have to spend another night in a hotel to be here Sunday morning.
Awesome. So let's kind of pose this question to the 25 of you who are still here. What would it take to get you all, you experts, you very lovely people, participating in the hackathon? No wrong answers.
I think Warren's coming up.
Yes.
Knowing that it existed. I mean,
Right.
sorry, Warren Kamari, Google. I mean, I registered for the meeting, but I didn't read anything else and I assumed it was on Sunday.
So perhaps adding an option to sign up when you're doing the initial conference registration. That's awesome.
Yep.
It's a great tip. Anybody else? Has anyone else in the room participated before in the hackathon and not participating this time? We've got one coming to the microphone.
I wanted to participate. Oh, sorry, John Christoph from UIC Data Plane. I wanted to participate this time, but actually I felt like it was actually difficult to do so, just because I was attending talks, went to the social. It seemed like I didn't have enough free time to do it. I don't know how you solve that problem necessarily, but I wanted to. That was
fair enough.
Hope, but I don't know how you fix the free time problem.
Yeah.
And we could make the conference more boring next time, but I don't think that's really going to drive ticket sales.
Hi, Matt Myers, Johnson County, Kansas. When I see hackathon, I think of programming, and I do a little bit of that, but I'm mostly network and security. So the idea that there was any sort of like network ops troubleshooting stuff wouldn't have occurred to me. Otherwise, I absolutely would have done it. So.
Okay. Any idea for a new name? That would be better.
Capture the flag.
Hackathon and Capture the Flag has been proposed.
Okay.
Super Mega Network Challenge Sprint.
Yeah. Fill out the surveys. We welcome all feedback, any new names or ways that we could better market it. We've already gotten some great responses, so appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, guys. Safe travels home.